Summertime is heating up at Global Voice Broadcasting. Hot music, hot talk, and hot topics. All day, every day, 24/7. You don't want to miss a minute on Global Voice Broadcasting.
I highly recommend Ms. Hicks. Her books, her CDs are encouraging.
I bought her book, A Hill to Climb. She's a very inspirational speaker.
And I look forward to one day being able to work with her.
Your power lies within you. Let it loose.
Aspiration, inspiration, motivation, edification, determination. These are the keys of life success, brought to you by none other than award-winning author, motivational lecturer, business consultant, and much more as she gets you aimed to your purpose. And now, ladies and gentlemen, young and elder, from Hollywood to the entire world, here is your host of Aim to Purpose, the radio show, Louise Hicks, along with her co-host, yours truly, Kennon Wesley Mason.
Although at one time in your life you have been cared for by others, when necessary, most of us willingly accept the role of caregiver for those we love. However, caring for others does not relieve us from the necessity to take care of ourselves. If you are one of the primary caregivers for someone who is disabled or elderly, there are a few things that you must be on the lookout for when it comes to taking care of yourself. The chronic stress that you encounter may eventually turn into symptoms much like those associated with clinical depression. You know that you may need to do more self-care when you are feeling tired most of the time. You may also find that your sleeping habits have considerably changed. You are sleeping too much or too little. Look out for significant weight gain or loss. Are you feeling overwhelmed by your responsibilities? You may even find that you are unjustifiably irritable with others. And you may start finding that activities which were once fun no longer have their attraction. If this has been happening to you, you may need some help. Of course, if you even suspect that you are dealing with depression, you should get evaluated with a competent healthcare provider. If that is not the case, you could also seek help from others who can reduce the burdens that have been placed on you. Help may come in the form of friends or relatives, and even may involve professional assistance from one of the many agencies which specialize in elder and disabled caregiving.
Hello world, how's everybody today? Thank you all for joining us. Again, I'm Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose, the radio show.
And I am your co-host, Kennon Mason, and I want to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone listening and watching Aim to Purpose, the radio show, as we are bringing you another special broadcast here at Global Voice Broadcasting.
And we thank you all, as we do every week, for joining us here. And today we have another great show for you. We are going to be talking about new beginnings for caregivers and finding happiness while caring for others. And this is a very, very important subject that we're going to discuss today. And we have an in-studio guest with us, and we're going to introduce her in a little bit to share with us about caregivers and what we encounter as caregivers on a day-to-day basis. But first, did you know, statistically speaking, that 65.7 million caregivers are here in the United States, which account for about 29% of our population that cares for disabled and aged. And
Wow.
that's quite a bit. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Especially considering that we have a population of a little over 300 million people here in the United States.
Yeah.
And we take care of 65.7 million.
Over a quarter of the national population.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So we do need experts to assist us and help us, as you saw in the opening video clip there, how some of these elements can really come upon us as caregivers. And I know what it's like to be a caregiver. And just think, we are the third largest population in the world, following China and India. And we have all of these sick people in the world that we have to care for. And here in the United States, it's overwhelming.
Yep.
Quite overwhelming.
Yeah, it is.
So feel free to call in and voice your opinion about it, a comment, ask questions.
Yes, absolutely. The number to call in on this subject here, it's a really important subject. If you want to call in, the area code and the number from anywhere around the world, 1-323-522-5482. Once again, from anywhere around the world, 1-323-522-5482. And when you call in, please make sure that you keep your computers on silent and wait to be queued in so you can make your question or comment and we all can hear you clearly. Once again, the number is 1-323-522-5482.
Yes, and without further ado, we're going to go ahead and introduce you to our guest.
So we're gonna delay the break.
Yeah, we're gonna take
All right.
a break a little later.
Okay, not a problem. Angela Mozelle is a caring, supportive, and experienced self-care advocate, author, and volunteer. She founded New Beginnings in 2008 to educate, inspire, and encourage baby boomers to take better care of themselves as they continue their day-to-day tasks, which often include caring for others, careers, family, finances, health, and more. Through a series of ongoing workshops, seminars, presentations, events, and one-on-one coaching, Angela strives to encourage others to make themselves a priority. Widowed before age 50, Angela understands the roles of single parent, sole provider, and entrepreneur. Angela embraces midlife women who are stuck or struggling with transitions and provides support and assistance in aspects of self-empowerment, including bereavement, empty nest syndrome, and career challenges. Angela is passionate about personal development and the possibilities coaching provides, including accountability, expansion, and value. Angela graduated from Shaw University, Downey School of Court Reporting, and the Coaches Training Alliance as a certified life coach. She is the mother of 2 adult daughters and believes that every day is a new beginning. Please, let's give an aim to purpose welcome to our special in-house guest, Miss Angela Mozelle.
Hello. Wow, quite an eloquent resume there.
Thank you
and
so
bio.
much, Kenan and Louise. I'm excited. Where'd you get all that information? I love it.
Oh, we have our ways. Believe me, we have lots of ways to get information, and we'd like to give a shout out to Miss Shamika Brown, my publicist. She's one of the ways, the most important way.
Round of applause for Shamika.
Thank you, Shamika.
Yes, but we'd like to welcome you into the studio today, and we thank you for coming in to share this information, because as we showed the video at the top of the hour and shared these statistics about the 65.7 million caregivers, which is about a quarter of our little over 300 million population here in the U.S. So that means disabled and aged people. We have a lot of sick people here in the U.S.
We do. It means that everyone knows someone that is a caregiver. It also means that everyone that we know knows someone who is a caregiver, has been a caregiver, or will be a caregiver. That's how close it is to us, Louise.
Yes, it is close.
Yes.
And we'll get more into the closeness because it's close to me too.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
we as we mentioned, our topic today is new beginnings for caregivers and finding happiness while caring for others. And you can find happiness, and Angela's going to help us to tell our audience how you can find that happiness. But first, let's find out what is New Beginnings and what is your mission of New Beginnings.
Wow. Thank you again, Louise and Kennon, so much.
Kennon.
Kennon.
Yes.
You're not a Wayans. Okay.
Right.
Kenan. We've heard Kenan before, but he's Kennon.
Kennon. Thank you so
It's
much
all
for
right.
that. No. And I'm going to continue to say it so that I'm sure that I pronounce it correctly.
All right.
Yes. New Beginnings started out as a mission, my personal mission, but as Louise said, there are so many people that want, need, and deserve support. So the mission of New Beginnings is to empower, to encourage, to assist women to be the best that they can be. Some of them are caregivers, some of them are not caregivers, but the mission of New Beginnings is for you to provide the best self-care for yourself so that each day when you awaken, you are awakening to what we truly call a new beginning.
Right.
And that makes sense because we know a lot of women are caregivers, but as we expand in this population, it appears that now more and more men are becoming caregivers as well, because I know some men that are
Yes.
taking care of elderly mothers
Yes.
and fathers,
Yes.
and they need that support too, right?
They do. It started out with women, and most of my clients are women, but there are some men that are caregivers. And one particular client that I have is a pastor, and he's been a pastor for years, decades, and his wife eventually has Alzheimer's, and it has been a constant struggle for him. But he realizes that he's not alone because there are, as you said, Louise, so many men now that are becoming caregivers, and they're doing a great job, I must say.
Oh yeah, they
Yes,
are. Many
yes,
of them are,
yes.
because I know I've seen and recognized that oftentimes an aged person or disabled, regardless of how they've become in this state, the women, they have brothers and sisters, but sometimes the women are stepping aside,
Yes.
and the men are having to step up to the plate to
Yes.
take care of their aged mother or father.
Yes.
So, and that happens, but you have a passion for this, and I can tell because we had an opportunity to speak a little bit before we came into the studio to start the broadcast, and I could really see your passion. Why are you so passionate about this New Beginnings and how to help women and men
Yes.
to find some balance in their own lives?
We do not thrive unless we are able to know that there's someone there to support us, unless we know that we have the kind of care that we deserve. And that's one of the vehicles that New Beginnings is based on. If you know, Louise, you know from your own circumstances, if you know that there's someone there that says, Louise, I've got your back. Louise, I understand. It makes a difference. And that's the New Beginnings way, to get that, to help you to get that balance in your life, to let you know that you're not alone. We understand what you're going through. As you said, there nearly 30%, more than the 25
Oh, yes.
of the population is caregiving for someone. Those people need support. Those people need help. And that's what New Beginnings is all about, doing our share with those people so that they can tell that we want to make a difference in their lives.
And we have to do that
Yes.
because we have so many people, aged as well as disabled.
Yes.
And some got disabled through accidents
Yes.
or other reasons or whatever. Are you a caregiver?
No, but I started out caring for people before I decided that this is what I was going to do. When I reached that golden age of 50, I wanted to take a new direction with my life, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And somehow, after having cared for some relatives, I thought there are other people out there that need this kind of support. I remember when I was caring for some of my aunts, there were questions that I wanted answers to, and I didn't know where to go. And so I set on this journey, and New Beginnings developed. New Beginnings was born, and I want caregivers to know that there is an outlet for them.
And that's great, because you had a passion, obviously, to make a difference and help others, whether it was relatives or friends or whomever.
Yes.
And you started this New Beginnings. So what type of projects or programs do you have that the women can have access to?
Oh, thank you for asking. I was hoping
we got to know that now. We got to.
I was hoping
we want this information to get out, because a lot of people out here don't know where to turn. They're so overwhelmed.
That's exactly true. The overwhelm and the stress, and I know we're going to talk about that.
Right.
We'll talk about that later.
We'll
talk about that a little bit later.
Right.
But New Beginnings offers support. I said support assistance, but what is that? There are people that are caring for loved ones, and they need time out. Day in and day out, they are caring for their loved ones. Sometimes they don't need the clinical support. They just need someone to say, you're doing a good job. Someone to say, let's go out to dinner. Someone to say, I know other people that are in your same situation. Let's start a support group. So New Beginnings has groups that meet individually, groups that meet on the telephone, groups that meet in specific places. New Beginnings also does conference calls on various subjects. Some of those subjects may be aging gracefully. Some of them are truth and consequences of caregiving. Some other ones are called sibling rivalry, because we know that as caregivers, there's one person that has been delegated as the primary caregiver, and the other ones somehow think that it is not their responsibility to help take care of mom and dad, and that causes a lot of sibling rivalry. Sometimes it's the daughter, the oldest daughter, that ends up being the primary caregiver. Sometimes it's the younger daughter. Sometimes it's the daughter that's not married. Sometimes it's the daughter that's closest to the family member. And other family members make excuses for not supporting, not helping out. And at New Beginnings, what we do is just show you that we understand, because a lot of the things that my caregivers are going through, I have been through. So it's a very personal experience for me. And I want them to know that I am here to support them with the various programs that we have. Some of the programs are just, maybe you need someone to call you at 6 o'clock in the morning to give you an encouraging word. Maybe you need to meet with the group on a Thursday evening just because that's your time out. Maybe you need to go on a respite trip once a year so that you can just get away. All those kinds of programs are things that we have at New Beginnings just to help the caregiver. We also have people, we know everyone's not the same. Some people want to write out their stories. So maybe we'll do a class on journaling, write out your feelings to help you to feel better. So some of the things that caregivers care about, New Beginnings cares about also, and we want you to know we're here for you.
That's a good thing, because you brought up a very touchy subject with some people when you said that sibling rivalry.
Yes, I know.
Because I tell you, that could start some fights in families.
Oh, yes, yes.
and pointing the finger, oh, you supposed to have done this, especially at times when the one person might be the caregiver and maybe they're not following up like they should, and then something happens to the loved one, and then the other family members who may live out of state or they may live in state, but they just feel like, well, you don't have anything to do. They're going to tell you what your life is. Well, you don't have much to do. You don't work. You don't this. But just because you don't work a 9 to 5 doesn't mean you don't work.
Oh, no. If you're caring for someone, you are constantly working. And that's what New Beginnings is all about, because caregivers are often overwhelmed, as we saw in the clip at the beginning of the show, and they feel guilty for taking time out. And what New Beginnings does is helps you to deal with the stress, help you not to feel guilty, help you to deal with the denial so that you can get on with your life. It's fine for you to be able to take care of a loved one who's aging, ailing, or disabled, but to do that, you also have to be able to take care of yourself. Louise, if you have that bottled water there and it's empty, you finished it, and your son, Kennon,
that's it. You got it.
How about that?
You got
Kennon decides he wants some of the water, but if you've emptied the bottle, you're not able to give him any. That's the way caregivers are, using water again or whatever. If you pick up your bottle of water,
here's the bottle
there's
she's
a
talking
bottle
about right here.
Yes, and you pick up that bottle of water, Louise, someone would ask you how heavy it is. It doesn't matter how heavy it is, it's how long you hold it. So how long are caregivers having to take care of loved ones without support determines how long they're able to do it. And they cannot do it forever without support. So there comes New Beginnings to give you the kind of support that you need so that you're able to take time out, so you're able to manage the stress, so that you're not constantly overwhelmed.
And that's so true. And they come to a point where we suffer burnout.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And when you suffer burnout, that's when that support is so vital, because I know the audience that's been listening to our show, we just celebrated our first year anniversary last month. They've heard me thank you, not last month, in July. July 7th of this year. And they've often heard me talk about my son, David, who was diagnosed with cancer at 14. And I became a caregiver for him for months on end, and not having sleep and everything. But I had a great support system from my family, friends. They would come over and just clean my house. They would come over and cook. Some would bring food to me and bring my daughter to the hospital.
Bring food to David.
They would bring me money. I mean, I had coworkers offering to give me sick time. So, I mean, it's so many things that you can do as a support system to avoid this burnout. Now, what are some of the burnouts that we go through?
Oh my. Well, as I said at the beginning of the video, we talk about sleep deprivation. You think that you have to
That is huge.
Yes, that is really
that is huge.
I would tell my clients and our listeners, when you are caring for a loved one who's aging, ailing, or disabled, treat that person, because oftentimes it is an adult. If it's an adult, treat the person as an adult, because the person's not a child. But go back to some of the things that you may have done when you had your children. When the person that you're caring for is sleeping, you sleep. It does not matter if you haven't cleaned up that day, go to sleep, because when that person wakes up, you're going to have to attend to that person. You won't be able to do the task. Get it done later. Another tip, Louise, that I give to my clients, people sometimes ask, is there anything that I can do to help? And we're so nice and polite. We say, oh, no, there's nothing you can do. I tell my clients, keep a list of to-dos by the telephone.
Right.
When someone calls and they say, is there something I can do? You look at that list.
Right.
And you start repeating things that are on that list. Oh, yes, you can do this. Oh, yes, you can do that. But someone says, well, what if there are things that they don't want to do? Soon you find out who your real friends are.
Oh,
right.
Of course.
Yes, you do.
So we talk about the sleep deprivation and the anxiety. We're wondering if we're doing the right thing. We start to question ourselves. And what I suggest that my clients do is always remember who you are. If you played bridge or chess, or if you went out to the movies on Tuesday nights, continue to do that.
Yeah.
Get someone else to come in to care for your loved one on Tuesday nights, so that you get the time out to do some of the things that you want to do. And don't feel guilty about doing it.
Yeah.
We start to feel guilty, and sometimes others make us feel guilty, especially our siblings.
Oh, yeah.
We cannot allow that to happen. Ask for help. Do not be ashamed to ask for help.
Yeah.
That's what. If we didn't need help, we would live alone in this world. That's why we have all these people here. Ask for help. Not everyone is going to support us, but there are going to be people there that do support us. Yeah. And it might not be family members. Sometimes support comes from places that we never expected it to come from.
And sometimes that's where you get your best help too.
Oh, yes.
That's where you get your best help.
Yes.
We all need a support system in any type of endeavor. You can't run a business solely by yourself.
No, you cannot.
You need the you might be the CEO, but you need the CFO. You need the supervising assistant. You need somebody to run certain errands for you.
Yes.
We have two arms, two legs. We can't do everything simultaneously.
And we're not supposed to.
We're not supposed to. That's why we're all here. We're a support system for each other.
Right.
It's all a network.
It is. And we find out as you go down the caregiving journey that it's about building relationships.
That's right.
It's about building and maintaining relationships. Some people stay in that group, some people don't. And it's okay. When those leave, you're opening the door, opening the windows for other people to come in.
That is so true, those relationships. And something else you said about when people come and ask you, what can you do? I remember when my son was sick, they didn't ask me. They just came.
Yes.
They were knocking at the door. Oh, I came to clean your house. I brought you some food. I brought David some food. And I came in here to cook for you. And I mean, I was open to all of this. Now, depending on the person, if you know their personality, everybody might not be willing to open up their home for you to come and do these things. So you have to use discernment and discretion as well.
Right.
But sometimes they are. They're willing to just come on over and do whatever it is, and you're willing to allow them to do it because you can go on burnout.
Yes.
And the other thing is working. What's your ideal client, particularly since some of these people work themselves and then they're caregivers on top of having to work. Some have families of their own. They have minor children.
Yes.
How do you deal with those clients, and what is the ideal client?
That's a loaded question.
Yes, it is.
Locked and loaded. Yes.
Well, let me start out by saying most caregivers work outside the home. And people do not believe that. There are statistics that say that more than 50% of the caregivers work outside the home.
And I didn't know that.
Yes, most of them work outside the home. Those caregivers definitely need support systems. They need to have family members, relatives, friends who come in and support them. Being a caregiver requires an inordinate amount of organization. That means that on weekends you have to do some things that you would normally do during the week. If that means you cook all the meals on the weekends, that's what you do. If you have friends that bring over food for you, you allow them to do that. But you're not Superwoman, you're not Superman. You cannot do everything. I have this little thing that I say to my caregivers, and it's called the 3 Ds. You do it if you're able to. That's the first D. You delete it if you're not able to.
Okay.
You delegate it if it's something that you think someone else can do, perhaps not nearly as well as you do, but it's okay. You will accept that they do it.
I love that delegate.
Yes, and we have to do that. And sometimes women are nurturers, and they want. And I'll go back to the baby story. You know, someone comes in, your husband comes in, and he says, "Oh, let me feed the baby." "Oh, no, you don't know how to feed the baby."
Right.
So what? If the baby's eating food, he knows how to. So what? If
the baby doesn't care.
The baby doesn't care.
And how do you feed a baby other than putting food in their mouth?
Yeah, and that's the same thing as we're caring for our loved ones. That person may not do it as well, or may not do it the way that we do it.
Yeah.
But sometimes our loved ones are more receptive to having someone else come in and do something for them because they've become so accustomed to the way that you do it. But we just get so caught up on, I'm the only one that can do this. And that's not true.
Yeah.
So you do what you can.
That creates the burnout.
That's the burnout.
You're killing yourself.
You are. Now, who is the ideal client? Generally, caregivers are baby boomers. Generally.
Okay.
And they're, I'd say, mid to late 50s to mid 70s.
Oh.
But we are finding now that that's no longer true. We have grandparents who are caring for their grandchildren, perhaps because the parents have been incarcerated or the parents have had misfortunes.
Yes.
We have siblings that are taking care of other siblings. We have, of course, spouses that are taking care of the spouses. And you mentioned something that's very important, Louise. We now have more men that are joining the caregiver ranks.
Yes,
they're caring for their wives, they're caring for their children, and they're caring for their parents. Yeah. And I might add, many of them are doing a fantastic job.
Yes, they are.
So we cannot say that a caregiver now is this 55-year-old woman who's taking care of her mom, because the mom may be taking care of her 55-year-old daughter who has become incapacitated. Yeah. And at New Beginnings, we understand that, and we are dealing with the people, with the people, come as you are. But I did a group, and many of the caregivers were fitting that model. They were the 55 to 60-year-olds, and I had one young lady in there, younger. She wasn't 40 yet, and she felt a little out of place because the women that were there were almost old enough to be her mom, but she was taking care of her mother who had dementia. So what I'm saying is the caregivers come in all ages, they come in all sizes, they come in all shapes. Being a caregiver is a non-discriminatory.
That's right.
It's not discriminatory, and that's what we have to understand. And I believe the government now is starting to understand that because more people are becoming more aware of Alzheimer's. More people are becoming more aware that we're living longer. At one time, there was a special program where the president sent out great certificates for everyone who reached 100 years old. Now, so many people are reaching 100 and beyond. They're not doing it that way anymore. They're still being acknowledged, but they're not receiving that special attention that they were getting before. We are living longer. And at New Beginnings, what we want people to do, Louise, since we are living longer, we want you to live the healthiest, the best life that you are able to live. And how do we do that? We get exercise. And I'm not saying that you have to go and run to the gym and do those kinds of things. Park your car farther away from the grocery store. You know, take the stairs sometime instead of the elevator.
That's important.
Get up during a commercial from the television. Do not go to the refrigerator during the commercial. That defeats the purpose.
Right.
If you smoke and you haven't been able to stop, just really, really cut back. But it is so important because, you know, our lungs, that's the air that we breathe. This is very, very important. We talked about sleep deprivation. We have to get adequate sleep. And we hear people all the time that are busy with their careers, busy taking care of loved ones. Oh, I'm able to thrive on 3 or 4 hours of sleep. For a short period of time, yes, but eventually you're not. We have to get adequate sleep.
That's right.
Yeah.
We have to engage socially. Whenever you become a caregiver, there are things that you're not going to do that you did before. But every time your girlfriend, your friend calls and says, let's go out, let's do this, if you tell them no, eventually what are they going to do, Kennon? They're going to stop calling you.
They'll stop eventually.
Eventually they'll stop calling.
Don't bother. She's not going anyplace.
Right. But we have to stay socially engaged. It's very, very important. And I don't mean social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. I mean we have to be face-to-face with people. Personally, it has to be up close and personal.
Which is something that we've really lost track with now with social media. It's created a divide between the human tactile contact.
It has.
It's created the great divide where no one wants to speak to each other anymore. We'd rather text versus call.
And I don't like texting. I can't stand it. I remember something you said, Angela, and then we're going to take a break. You were talking about taking care of yourself and exercising, and that's something that needs to be stressed to young people now because they're talking about turn it up and turn it out and turn it loose, and they're all over the place. People in their 20s, but what they have to realize, every day you're getting older and you keep turning it up, turning it out, turning it loose. By the time you get to be in your 30s or 40s, you're going to be worn out. And burned out. You're not going to have anything to turn up and turn out. And my grandmother used to tell us, you take care of yourself while you're young. When you get old, that body is going to take care of you. And and that's a true saying.
It is.
I mean, it's so true. And we got to learn that. And I love those 3 Ds. And then we're going to go to commercial break. Do, delete, and delegate. So I love delegating. And right now I'm going to delegate to Ken to take us out to a commercial break.
We're going to take a commercial break. Angela Mozelle is our special guest. And again, if you want to call in, 1-323-522-5482 from anywhere around the world, 1-323-522-5482. We'll be right back. This edition of Aim to Purpose, the radio show, is brought to you by L. Hicks Consulting Services. When you want the best in business coaching, life coaching, or perhaps your organization, business, or company is in need of a dynamic speaker for an upcoming workshop or seminar, contact Louise Hicks for L. Hicks Consulting Services at 1-562
1-562-310-1495. From anywhere around the world, that's 1-562-310-1495. For more information about Louise Hicks and her consulting services, visit her website at www.louisehicks.biz. Again, that's www.louisehicks.biz. Or call 1-562-310-1495. L. Hicks Consulting Services, where professionalism is top priority.
Hello, world, again. We are back, and we have a great show today. We're talking to our in-studio guest, Miss Angela Mozelle, who is the founder of New Beginnings, and she is an expert on helping caregivers to find happiness in their own life and while they are caring for their aged or disabled loved one or someone that may not even be a relative. And it's interesting what she just shared, because I didn't know this, that about 50% of caregivers work. They have outside jobs, and that's huge when you have an outside job and then you are a caregiver. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that having an outside job and being a caregiver, because that can cause problems too within your relationship, your marriages, because some people have husbands, wives, or whatever, and they're caring for their in-laws, and that can create some of the burnout and some of the stress. How do you deal with that? And I want to add something to that, because I know sometimes we have to put our loved ones in nursing homes. They're not always in the home environment, which would be ideal. But what do you tell your clients that some feel guilty, especially if they have to put them in a home versus taking care of them in the home?
Thank you so much for that. And that certainly is a question that comes up often, especially for caregivers that are working outside the home and they come home and they're caring for loved ones and they have a spouse and they have children. Mm-hmm. So how do you wear all of those hats? So we sit down and we have a family discussion.
Okay.
And we are very open, very honest, and very frank. We do talk about placing the loved one in a facility. What are the advantages? What are the pros and cons of that situation? And before I delve a little further into that topic, what I want to, something else that's related to that, I want to talk about spouses. We say we take a vow for better or for worse.
Yes, we do.
Now, when we take that vow for better or for worse, I ask the question, are you a doctor? Are you a nurse? Does that mean that you are going to be able, as the spouse of your loved one, to give them the best care? Now, will they get better care in a facility, in a very well investigated, well-staffed facility, versus you who you're working outside the home, you are not trained in the medical field to take care of your loved one? And inevitably, most of the time, that answer is that the loved one would be better off in a facility, because we are not able to take care of the person the way that we want to take care of the person with someone working outside the home. Now, we talk about working outside the home. What does it do to the relationship between the spouse?
Right.
How much time are you able to spend working on a job outside the home, 40 hours a week? Now, in Southern California, we know that a 40-hour week is not a 40-hour week, because we have to take into account that commuting time.
Yeah.
So how
40 turns into 50.
Exactly. And if we live in places that are far away, it could easily turn into 55 or 60 hours a week that we are commuting back and forth to work. Now, how much time do we have to spend with our family, our husband?
Quality time.
How much time do we have to spend with our children? And how much time do we have to care for our loved one? In situations like this, we have to be really realistic, and we have to set emotions aside. So I have some questionnaires that I go through with my clients, and many of them they decide, I promised Mom I would never place her in a facility.
I know.
And we have to make choices. If our parents were well, if they were, some of them are dealing with dementia, if they were not dealing with dementia, I asked them, what do you think your parent would really want you to do? Yeah. Do you think that your parent would really want you to spend 90% of your time taking care of the family? That leaves you with 10%. Right. Now, at 10% of time, how much time do you have self-care? And that's just really being
realistic.
That's being realistic.
Right.
And I've had some clients and they've said, Angela, that really makes sense, but we're not going to do it. And then I've had clients that said, let us think about it. And then I've had clients to call me and say, okay, we're ready to do it. Yeah. And it's up to them. I do not tell them, but what I do is I lay out the facts for them, and I allow them to make the decision. And most of the time, they make the right decision. Mm-hmm. For some families, the right decision is to place their loved one. Right. For other families, the right choice for them is to have their loved one in their home, together, a great support system, so that the person gets the care that they need and deserve.
And that's so important.
There's no right or wrong. It's just about what is right in that moment.
Exactly.
For you and your family.
Exactly. Exactly.
That is true. That is so true. And with 50% you said that's working, that makes it even more difficult. And then you have to look at the level of care that the parent needs as well. Exactly. And the expertise of the caregiver. Yes. Because I can share with you that my mother is 92. She's bedridden, and my sister, they live in Texas, takes care of her.
Yes.
Now, over this time frame that my sister has been taking care of my mother, she has become a Florence Nightingale. I mean, she knows more than some nurses.
Yes, yes.
I mean, she amazes me what she does to take care of my mother.
Yes.
And when she's really funny, because when she goes to the hospital, she talks to other patients, because some people, to nursing homes, when my mother is ill sometimes and she has to take her to the hospital, and they'll put her in, because she's diabetic also, and they may put her in a nursing home for 6 to 8 weeks or whatever.
Yes.
And there are people that put their mothers and fathers, loved ones there, and believe it or not, they never go back. And that's sad. And my sister will go from room, and I've been there because I used to go back and forth and help to take care of my mother.
Yes.
And I've been there, and my sister would crack me up because she was that Florence Nightingale. She'd go in and talk to the patients, and they need that.
They do.
They do need that, because some of them are so isolated from their families, they've just thrown them away.
Yes. And it's a very difficult decision for some family members, because after they've placed the loved one in the facility, they feel guilty. Number one, they feel guilty because they placed them in the facility. Number two, they feel guilty because they don't know how often to go see them, and sometimes they go to see them too often, and there is such a thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't go to see them enough. So they are very conflicted with the choices that they make. But it is a real challenge for being a caregiver is a real challenge, and it's a growing part of our society, and it's being noticed more and more because more people that are quote unquote in the spotlight have become caregivers, and that makes it more common so that other people are getting the attention also.
And speaking of society, when you spoke of that, that's huge too on the society. As a society, how are we dealing with it? Because we know that there are, like we said, all of these 67 point so close to 70 million people out here disabled and aged in our society. And we as baby boomers, we're taking care of them. And you talk about if we become burnout and so forth, to seek professional help. And we want to make sure, like in the video, it said seek competent professional help, because that's important. That's a key word here, competent.
Yes.
And when you go because you're depressed, and some psychiatrists want to just, the first thing they want to do is throw some drugs at you, you better get up and run.
Yes.
Because I'm telling you, that is not the answer, to be drugged. We have become an over-drugged society.
We always hear the dark side of what caregivers go through, and how if the person is in a facility, how they're not being taken care of the way you think that they would. They're having the bed sores. They're having they're dehydrated. They're not socially verbalizing or conversing with other patients or the caregiver themselves.
Yes.
and it wears on them over time.
Yes.
So how is this handled in society with all of these atrocities, I call them, that we hear about from these nursing facilities and so forth?
What we have to realize is that a lot of the things that we hear about are real and they do happen. Those are not the majority of the cases, but as you said, Kennon, whenever we hear about it, that's what we think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the news. If we constantly hear, "Oh, it's raining outside, it's a storm,"
Oh, yes.
well, let's make it very relevant to today.
Yeah.
We're talking about the fires.
Right.
The fires are real. They do exist.
Yeah.
Do we need to know every 3 minutes that
Right.
there is
Right.
a fire? We are aware that
Right.
there are fires.
That's right.
And we understand that. So what the media does with the caregiving situation, they have one incident and you hear about it forever. Now, I am definitely not saying that many of the facilities are not doing what they're supposed to do,
Right.
but there are many facilities that are great
Yeah.
and that
yes.
are taking great care of our loved ones.
Right.
I have a client who is a caregiver. She has been caring for her mom, who has been bedridden for 13 or 14 years. She stopped her job. She is the primary caregiver. She has siblings. And what I asked her, does she have any regrets? And she said that if she had to do it again, she would care for her mom, but she would continue to work. Why would she continue to work? Because she has given up a part of her life. She is late 50s. She's been doing this since she was in her 40s, taking care of a loved one. So it's really something that we have to think very, very clearly, very about before we make a decision. And I would say that it is not just your decision. If you have family members, you have family meetings, not just one, family meetings, and you discuss it. You do all the research and you discuss what's going to happen, what happens 5 years from now, what happens 10 years from now. At one point, Louise, being a caregiver lasted for about 4 years. As I said right now, this client has been caring for her mom for 14 years.
That's a long time.
People are living longer.
That's
if you are a caregiver, it is no longer a 4-year process. So what happens at the end of the caregiving process? How do you get back to your normal life?
Right. How do you get back to yourself?
How do you get back to yourself?
And cope with it? And you being a bereavement counselor, that helps because we know ultimately what's going to happen. And that helps too, right? That's what you do.
Yes, we do the grief support. I have a 7-step process, and we talk about acceptance, acknowledgement, what you're going to be able to do, how you get the self-support. But at the end, I call it the new normal, because it never goes back to the way it was, but how do you deal with that? And you've alienated all of your friends, all of the people that were there to support you. What do you do now? And many caregivers have no idea.
No clue whatsoever.
So that's what we talk about, having balance in your life. You cannot give up who you are. You have to remember, stay in touch with Louise. You have to do that.
So it is new beginnings.
Yeah, it's a new beginning. It's a new start.
It's really a new start because it's a new normal for you because you've lost that loved one and you got to start over.
Yes.
So with that, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some of the types of illnesses that caregivers deal with and the medications and so forth.
Yeah, we're going to get into all of that and a whole lot more with our special guest, Angela Mozelle. We'll be right back. Don't you go nowhere.
Hello, world. Hey, it's the 1-year anniversary of Aim to Purpose, the radio show. So first, we thank the staff at Global Voice Broadcasting for the platform and the opportunity. Go to gvbstudios.com/show/A2P. Next, we thank our wonderful guests that have graced the airwaves of Aim to Purpose over the past year, like Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn from the documentary Forks Over Knives, Nazir Alim Bey with his soon-to-be-released documentary entitled Melanin, the God Particle. From the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, Dr. Jeffrey A. Shaler, and Professor Baron K. Brown, who's become a regular on the show. Internationally, we've had guests such as Bridget Nkuna and Sarah Jane Farrell from South Africa, Award-winning author F.T. Camargo from Brazil, Brenda Pierce, the Empower Nurse from Canada, double Olympic medalist from the British cycling team Brian Steele, and many other great guests that have openly shared their knowledge, humor, wit, and wisdom with the A2P universe. And most important, we thank you, the listening and viewing audience, for tuning in each and every Monday. Information is power, and the more our audience grows, the more open minds that'll receive the information, which makes all of us powerful. So we encourage all of you to spread the word about Aim to Purpose, the radio show. Lastly, if you know someone with a product, business, or foundation that's interested in advertising as a sponsor for the show, contact A2P host Louise Hicks at louisehicks.biz or Shamika Brown at divinebrownmedia.com. Be a part of the A2P movement, as there is always power in numbers of like minds that multiply. And follow us on social media at Aim to Purpose, #A2P. Once again, thank you all from Aim to Purpose, the radio show.
And again, we are back. We're back with our special guest, Miss Angela Mozelle, and we are talking about new beginnings for caregivers, finding happiness while caring for others. And in the few minutes we have left, we want to just briefly talk about the type of illnesses that many experience, and we've already mentioned some, the dementia, the Alzheimer's. What are some of the other illnesses that caregivers have to deal with, and which might force them to put their loved one into a home as opposed to keeping them in their home environment?
Thank you so much for asking that pertinent question, Louise. A lot of people don't understand, don't know, don't realize that many people who are caring for their loved ones, they become too ill themselves because they haven't taken care of themselves as caregivers, and that leaves the demise of the caregiver, of the person being cared to someone else.
The caregiver needs a caregiver.
The caregiver needs a caregiver, and then what happens to their loved one that they're caring for? So it's crucial. Self-care is the most important care.
Oh, yeah.
Do not give anyone else more care than you give yourself.
That's
huge. That is huge.
That's huge. Say that again.
Do not give anyone else more care than you give yourself. You are your priority.
Right.
You are your most important priority. That's pretty redundant, but it's true. You have to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of anyone else. So what kinds of diseases, what kinds of malfunctions are caregivers suffering from? The person that they're caring for, basically they're dealing with Alzheimer's, they're dealing with just diseases that have to do with aging process.
Right.
But the caregivers deal with stress.
That's
Stress shows up in many ways. It shows up as hypertension. It shows up as overeating or undereating, as we saw in the clip before.
Right.
Stress can result in strokes.
Yep.
Stress can result in diabetes.
Yep.
Stress can result in paralysis. And the list goes on and on and on. So if we are not taking care of ourselves, we are not able to take care of anyone else.
Yeah.
So
true.
Allow people to call you selfish. Allow them to call you whatever they choose. Take out some time for yourself. If you don't, you cannot be the best caregiver that you can be, and you cannot be your personal best. More so than being a good caregiver, it's important, Louise, for us to be at our personal best at all times.
Yeah.
That's
And we
vital.
only do that when we take care of ourselves.
And that's so vital. Like Kennon said, if you don't do that, as Angela mentioned, the caregiver will need a caregiver.
Right.
That's exactly
And you
true.
don't want to get in that position.
No.
So what are some future projects you have in the few minutes we have left? And give us how we can contact you, your website, and what's on your website. We know you're an author as well.
I have this great book, and it's called ABCs for Caregivers, and you can go to my website, which is newbeginningstoday.com, and you can get the book, or you can go to Caregivers Need care2.com. You can get the book, or you can contact me, Angela Mozelle, at 310-673-3349. Give me a call and request the book. There is a nominal fee for the book. It is a very good book. It gives from A to Z, and it's just tips on being a caregiver. Basically, it's meditations. Just A is for appreciation. G is for gratitude. Just basically to calm yourself as you are a caregiver. Once a year, we have this great road trip where last 2 years, we went to Solvang, and we took a busload of caregivers to wine country, and they just enjoyed the day, and they were able to taste wine, and they were able to taste olive oils. They were just able to walk around the village and look at the Scandinavian sites.
Yeah.
And of course, we stopped by some of the casinos for people that wanted to watch others play, and also, but it was just a great getaway. We have fun on the bus. We have food. We have trivia, and it was a great way for ladies. The men are welcome too, but none of the men joined us on that trip. For them to get away, for them to hire or bring in someone else so that they can get a day to themselves. We have regular monthly calls on, as I said, aging gracefully, and we talk about the sensational 60s, the sexy 70s, the elegant 80s.
I'm a sensational 60s.
And we talk about the novel 90s, but it's all about aging gracefully. So just give us a call and get in on some of the programs. There is a great program that I'm very proud of, and we talked about the 7 steps of caregiving, and I call it the empty chair or the empty plate, and it's about grief support. And we know that as a caregiver, inevitably you get to that point, and how do you deal with the new normal? I thank Louise so much for having me here today, and just please go to the website, as I said, newbeginningstoday.com. And
give that number again as well.
Sure. The number is 310-673-3349. You can send me an email, angela@newbeginningstoday.com, and let me know what you're interested in as a caregiver. Let me know what kinds of programs the mainstream is not offering so that we can provide what our community needs. And I'm just so grateful for having the opportunity to be on Aim to Purpose today. It's wonderful. Thank you so much.
We are glad to have you because you have imparted some very informative information. And one thing I want to say, too, did you say Solvang is where you went?
We did.
I love that place. I've been there on numerous times.
Yes.
Love right outside of Santa Barbara for those of you
Yes.
who live in California. If you don't live in California, it's right outside of Santa Barbara.
Yes.
Beautiful Santa Barbara. And whether you're a caregiver or not, you offer services, right? It's not exclusive to caregivers.
Oh, no, it is not exclusive to caregivers, because many of the same issues that caregivers deal with, regular people deal with those issues.
That's right.
And the focus is on caregivers, but it applies to you if you're dealing with some of the stress, some of the overwhelm, some of the anxiety. Just give us a call.
So y'all hear that now. You don't have to be a caregiver now to go to Solvang or wherever they're going.
No, you do not.
And have some fun and relieve yourself of the stress.
That's right.
Yes. This year we're going to Viejas down near San Diego. So it's
I've been there too.
Yes, it's the
Awesome.
the second Saturday in November. So give us a call and get your seat on the bus while there's still space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotta have fun.
Yes.
So some final thoughts, and Ken, if you have something else. And
No, I just like the fact that you have this program called New Beginnings. The name is so appropriate because it gives people, just the name alone, it gives people an opportunity to know that you can start over. You can start fresh. You can start with a clean slate.
Yes.
And give yourself back to yourself.
Right.
No matter what the circumstances are, no matter how many hours that you've dedicated to caring for your loved ones, it's okay. Like you said, the guilt complex, which creates stress.
Yes.
There is no reason to be guilty about lending a helping hand.
Right.
You just have to know your own limitations.
Exactly.
Let your body talk to you.
Yes.
Let your body let you know that, okay, it's time to slow down.
Yes.
And take a break.
Yes.
Go and drink the wine. Go to wine. Go and have the peaceful, fresh air.
Yes.
you have to, all of us have to, it's like a battery. We all have to recharge.
Yes.
All of us, or else, like you said, we won't be able to take care of our loved ones the way
Right.
we know that we need to.
The
Right.
caregiver will need a caregiver.
The caregiver
And
will need a
The
caregiver.
Yes.
in less than 60 seconds, a final thought.
Take care of yourself and start your new beginning every day.
Great. And with that
Simple as
said,
that.
we
Yes.
thank you so much, Miss Angela Mozelle, for coming in and sharing all of this information with us. And until next week, remember, your power lies within you. Let it loose.
Until next week, yes, we'll see you later.